I now call to order the joint meeting of the City Council of the City of Baytown and the Municipal Development District on Thursday, April 23rd, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. in the Council Chamber City Hall. Announcement of quorum at 6:54 p.m. We will now have the pledge and invocation given by Council Member Laura Alvarado, District 1.
Thank you, Mayor, and if you'll indulge me for a moment, I've invited this evening Pastor Ramado Gonzalez from Central Baptist Church out in Pelly, who will be doing our invocation after the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Let us pray. Father, we come before you and we give you glory, honor, and praise. And Father, we thank you, Lord, for this day that you provided for us, Father God, and the opportunity, Lord, to come together, Father God. And Lord, we just want to come before you and we want to raise this council to you, Father God. Be with the mayor, be with each of the members of the council, Father God, as they take care of the business of the city, Father God. We know that you have put all leaders in their positions, Father, and we're just lifting them up to you, Father God. We ask, Lord, that you would give them guidance, that you allow them, Lord, to discuss the topics, Father God, in a way that will honor you, Father God, and in a way that will lead the citizens of this city, Father God. We thank you, Lord, for your faithfulness. We thank you for the love and the mercy and the grace you give us. And Lord, we ask, Lord, that you would move in this place. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Start off with citizen comment. Do we have anyone sign up to speak? Moving on to item 2A. Consider a resolution authorizing funding for continued engagement of the Hush Blackwell LLP to advise on economic development and general legal matters. Mr. Moran.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, Board of Directors. So this item is recommending approval funding for Hush Blackwell. They provide specialized expertise, particularly for our large-scale economic development matters, particularly pertaining to industrial district agreements and our Chapter 212 agreements, and they've been instrumental in those, to name a few, with CP Chem, Tennessee Materials, Walmart, Enterprise Products, and we are in the process right now of renewing approximately 25 IDAs and 2 new 212s.
Good deal. Any questions or comments? I need a motion.
Motion to approve item 2A.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We will now move into city council items, and we're going to start with recognitions and citizen communications. Y'all are in luck today because we have some proclamations. So council, I'm going to ask this one time after we give each proclamation if you all would join us down to take some pictures. Are y'all willing to do that? That's what I'm talking about. Good deal. First, we're going to start off with National Public Safety Communicators Week. Chief, you want to expound on this?
Of course, I'll let you read that. But, just very quickly, our telecommunicators are our dispatchers. They are that calm, quiet voice on the other end of the line on some of our citizens' worst day of their lives, and they're a lifeline for our police officers when they're out there on the street. They set the tone for professionalism throughout the call, and we're incredibly appreciative of them. Thank you, Council and Mayor, for recognizing our telecommunicators.
Proclamation, City of Baytown, National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, whereas the Public Safety Telecommunicators of Baytown Emergency Communication Center, who process on average over 500 telephone calls each year, serve as the first and most critical point of contact between our citizens and emergency services, and whereas the safety and effectiveness of our police officers, firefighters, and paramedics depend upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained by these highly trained professionals from those who call for assistance, and whereas the public safety telecommunicators of the Baytown Emergency Communications Center play a vital role in the apprehension of criminals, the suppression of fires, and the provision of life-saving medical response, and their tireless efforts in answering calls, dispatching emergency services, and providing critical instructions to help save lives and protect our community. And whereas the work of public safety telecommunicators require exceptional skill, unwavering composure, and deep compassion as they calmly and efficiently manage high-pressure situations while providing reassurance and guidance during times of crisis. Now, therefore, I, Charles Johnson, Mayor of Baytown, do hereby proclaim the week of April 12th through the 18th in 2026 as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, and in the city of Baytown, encourage all individuals to recognize, honor, and express their appreciation for the dedication and service of our public safety professionals. Picture time.
Oh, it's perfect. It's supposed to put an F. Yeah, he does. Oh, that's right. I'm getting in the window. Yeah, I'm trying to get, usually there's somebody in front of me. So okay, short people up front. I got you.
Big smiles. We go. And let me go. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Next, we're going to have Public Service Recognition Week. Whereas the city of Baytown recognizes that public service professionals play an essential role in maintaining the safety, health, and overall well-being of the community, their daily commitment ensures that essential services are delivered efficiently and effectively to residents and businesses throughout the city. And whereas employees of the city of Baytown demonstrate dedication, integrity, and professionalism in serving the public across a wide range of departments and functions, their work often goes unseen, yet it is fundamental to the city's quality of life and continued growth. And whereas Public Service Recognition Week provides an opportunity for the community to express appreciation for the individuals who devote their careers to public service, it also highlights the importance of civic engagement and the shared responsibility of building a strong and thriving community. And whereas the city of Baytown recognizes that strong public institutions depend on the continued recruitment, retention, and support of skilled public servants who are committed to excellence and responsive service, investing in these professionals, the core of Baytown life, ensures the long-term resilience and effectiveness of municipal government. Now, therefore, I, Charles Johnson, Mayor of Baytown, do hereby proclaim May 3rd through May 9th, 2026 as Public Service Recognition Week in the city of Baytown, and encourage all individuals to recognize and honor the dedication and contribution of our public service. Do we have any public service in the audience today? Would you? Well, would you mind joining us up here for this photo?
Let's go. I am Cliff, Tracy, Kevin, Les.
Let's be sure we get the library in this also.
Hey, that doesn't include contractors. Stay out of these things.
Okay, y'all ready? Everybody keep their eyes wide open, big smiles, okay? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Let me get one more. Hang on.
Do a selfie.
Yeah, hang on. Let me try. Hang on. Here we go.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Good job.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Yeah, they turned up. Meeting's over.
Now we are going to have BACA, that's Bikers Against Child Abuse. We do this one yearly, and they are already here. Would you all mind coming up? And is there anyone that's going to speak? Let's do it.
BACA, Bikers Against Child Abuse, exists with the intent to create a safer environment for abused children. We exist as a body of bikers to empower children to not feel afraid of the world in which they live. We work in conjunction with local and state officials who are already in place to protect children. And because of what these kids go through is why we ask for this proclamation for Heroes Weekend. They don't have a choice in what they went through. They don't have a choice in going through the court process and how long that takes. But because they will persevere and we will do our best to stand there with them through the whole process, we'll go into court with them, they are truly heroes to us. From the tiniest little toddler to the teens that age out because of the time frames, they are amazing. And we just really appreciate you guys taking the time to allow us to be here and to recognize April as well as Child Abuse Awareness and Prevention Month. Just remember, if you see something, say something. Thank you.
Proclamation, City of Baytown, BACA Heroes Weekend. Whereas the City of Baytown is pleased to join Bikers Against Child Abuse, Inc. in celebrating the last weekend of April 2026 as BACA Heroes Weekend in Texas. And whereas Bikers Against Child Abuse is an international nonprofit organization dedicated to providing support and healing to children who have been abused. These young victims are known among the organization's members as heroes. And whereas this exemplary organization has instituted a number of initiatives to champion the victims of child abuse, including empowerment ceremonies where an abused child is welcomed into the Bikers Against America's child abuse family. And whereas it is truly fitting that a weekend be set aside to pay tribute to the bravery and determination shown by the victims of child abuse in facing and overcoming their trauma. And whereas the City of Baytown commends the members of Bikers Against Child Abuse, Inc. on their important work and commitment to supporting the victims of child abuse and extends to them best wishes for a successful BACA Heroes Weekend. Now, therefore, I, Charles Johnson, Mayor of Baytown, do hereby proclaim April 24th through the 26th, 2026 as BACA Heroes Weekend and encourage individuals to join me in recognizing the important work of Bikers Against Child Abuse, Inc. and in honoring the courage and resilience of the children they serve.
Where you want me? You go there.
Yo, good.
I get
Here we go.
Same.
1, 2. Let me get one more.
Thanks, guys. Of course. Thank you for your service. Yeah, of course. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
I'm not going to ask any questions, but I'm going to say something about this next one. Municipal City Clerks Week. We would not be able to hold, I'm going to say, any of our meetings if it were not for the city clerk's office. They take very good care of us and provide us with candy in our candy drawers. And I really appreciate the candy. I appreciate the coordination of the meetings and the events that they help us put on for the public. They make us look good. Proclamation, City of Baytown Municipal Clerks Week. Whereas the profession of municipal clerks is essential, playing a vital role in the foundation of local government in Texas through the promotion of transparency, the assurance of accountability, and the support of efficient municipal service delivery. And whereas Texas municipal clerks are committed to upholding the highest standards of neutrality and professionalism, serving as a vital connection between residents, elected officials, and various levels of government. And whereas municipal clerks are entrusted with maintaining official records, managing vital documents, overseeing municipal elections, responding to public information requests, while serving as the public information officer and ensuring adherence to applicable laws and regulations throughout the Texas communities. And whereas these dedicated professionals consistently demonstrate integrity, expertise, and a strong commitment to public service, contributing significantly to the effectiveness and continuity of local governance. And whereas Municipal Clerks Week offers a meaningful opportunity to recognize and honor the contributions of municipal clerks and to acknowledge their indispensable role in supporting the operations and success of cities across Texas. Now, therefore, I, Charles Johnson, Mayor of Baytown, do hereby proclaim May 3rd through 9th, 2026 as Municipal Clerks Week in the city of Baytown and encourage all individuals to join us in recognizing the valuable services provided by municipal clerks in our community.
Let's always put a hand on it. See? A bit closer to this one. Okay, here we go. 1, 2. You get one more. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Miss Angie.
No, we got one more.
One more. 2 more?
Proclamation, City of Baytown National Correctional Officers Week. Whereas correctional officers play a vital role in maintaining public safety by supervising individuals in custody and ensuring safe, secure, and orderly operations, and their work often occurs behind the scenes, yet remains essential to the well-being of our communities. And whereas correctional officers demonstrate professionalism, integrity, and resilience while working in challenging and sometimes dangerous environments, where they must balance safety, security, and the treatment of those in their care. And whereas these dedicated professionals contribute to positive outcomes by fostering structured environments, supporting constructive programs, and encouraging accountability, thereby helping individuals work towards successful reintegration into society. And whereas it is important to recognize the sacrifices made by correctional officers and their families and to honor their commitment to protecting our communities and serving with distinction. Now, therefore, I, Charles Johnson, Mayor of Baytown, do hereby proclaim May 3rd through 9th, 2026 as National Correctional Officers Week in the city of Baytown and encourage all individuals to join me in expressing appreciation and for the dedicated service and contribution of correctional officers.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
That was the last one, right?
That was the last one.
For everybody, for everybody.
Parks? Is this them? Are they here? Good deal. Now, F, receive recognition from the Texas Municipal League Intergovernmental Risk Pool, TMLIRP, for the City of Baytown's implementation of their Road Ready program in the Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Department. Mr. Joey Lopez.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's always great when we get to recognize employees, but tonight we get to recognize an entire department of employees for the great work that they've done and the hard work they've done. So with me, I have Ava Hudnall. She's part of our risk management group, and I have Manny Trejo, who's part of the Texas Municipal League. And I'm going to have Ava share a few words about what this program was, and then Manny's going to actually present the award to Parks Department, the Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Department. I want to make sure.
Good evening, everyone. So one of the things that we have been really trying to do throughout the organization is put a greater emphasis on safety overall, just to try to combat issues like employee injuries and those sorts of things throughout the different departments. So one of the ways we're able to take a proactive approach is to do things like the Road Ready program. And so today I'm super excited to get to present this award to our Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Department. And so I'm going to ask everyone from the department that is coming to accept the award, if you don't mind coming to join us in the front. And then Manny from TML is going to read y'all a letter here in just a second.
Who is that guy? Leonard Graham. Does anybody know that's Leonard Graham? The infamous Leonard Graham.
The
Leonard Graham.
Thank you for having me. Good evening. We're thrilled to extend our heartfelt congratulations to the City of Baytown for successfully completing all 5 digital badges of the Road Ready program. This noteworthy achievement is a testament to the collaborative efforts and dedication of your team. Working on and near roadways creates the potential for catastrophic encounters with other vehicles. Where the extent of damage or injury is not necessarily related to fault, the Road Ready initiative was specifically designed to ensure all staff are aware of these potential hazards and exposures. The City of Baytown Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Department has exemplified a proactive approach, successfully completing major activities associated with the Road Ready process. The enclosed certificate recognizes the organization's completion of the 5 Road Ready badges and the dedication of all staff to provide a safe and healthy workplace. This effort is paramount to the partnership the Texas Municipal League Intergovernmental Risk Pool seeks to create with its members. We look forward to continued partnership in loss prevention and risk management. Thank you for your commitment and congratulations once again on this remarkable achievement.
No. No, you just want to be there with Leonard. That's all you want.
Oh, wow. You really want to go take a picture with me? It's all a blur. Public hearings. We will now go into the public hearings. The public hearings today are being held for the purpose of giving all interested persons the right to express their views regarding the subject of the public hearing. Everyone desiring to be a part of today's hearing should have either signed the appropriate list in the foyer or emailed the city clerk prior to the posted time of this meeting. Each participant shall give his or her name and address in order to provide proper record of these hearings. The rules allow each person 3 minutes to present information. However, I encourage everyone to be as brief and to the point as possible. If you are a group of persons wishing to address council on the same subject, please select a spokesperson to present the information. And if anyone has any questions, please direct them to me. 4A, conduct a public hearing for a proposed text amendment to Chapter 111 Unified Land Development Code of the Baytown Code of Ordinances to revise Division 2.3 and 10.2 of the ULDC regarding short-term rental operations within residential and mixed-use zoning district. It is now 7:19 p.m., and I call to order this public hearing concerning the proposed text amendment to Chapter 111 of the Unified Land Development Code to update regulations for short-term rentals operations in residential and mixed-use zoning districts. I would like now to request staff to summarize the subject of this hearing. Mr. Calvin Abram.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Calvin Abram, Planning and Development. As our mayor has identified, the Planning Department is presenting to you a text amendment for our Unified Land Development Code. A little history about what's going on. In 2014, the 2014 ULDC did not identify short-term rentals within the Unified Land Development Code. That essentially means they were not allowed in any zoning residential district. Our 2025 update to the Unified Land Development Code allowed short-term rentals within residential zoning districts, however, through the special use permit process. Since 2025, January 2025 to this date, we've only had one special use permit application, and that was an application that was at Ashwood Drive. That application was approved by both the Planning and Zoning Commission as well as the City Council. But through that process, we identified several things. The length of the process took, several months to get through. It appeared to be subjective with some gaps that was in there. So through that, the Planning Department received some feedback that the City Council would like us to reevaluate the process that we were using with the short-term rental. And through that process, we looked at 12 cities within proximity and the state of Texas to what they were doing, what worked for them, what didn't work, and what would they like to do differently. We took all that feedback, compiled it, and created the text amendment that you have before you as of this moment. As I identified, we're requesting essentially two text amendments. One is to essentially a clean up of the Unified Land Development Code. In some areas, we identify short-term rentals as less than 28 days. In other places, we identify short-term rentals as less than 30 days. So we're going to clean that up and make it consistent throughout the Unified Land Development Code to be less than 30 days. When we look at short-term rentals, there's essentially three types. That's hosted, owner-occupied, where the owner lives within the residence and does a short-term rental for rooms within the development and within the dwelling unit. And then the unhosted, where the owner isn't there, people go onto a particular app and rent the entire dwelling unit. And then, of course, we have vacation rentals. As identified, currently our short-term rentals are complaint-driven. Someone complains to get things to move forward, then they go through the special use permit. It takes longer to do it because they have to go through the SUP. We don't have a way to track those, and compliance is kind of difficult to do. Our current regulations, what the regulations identify that the short-term rentals have to pay hot taxes, or hotel occupancy taxes. We identify the length of the stay in there, and that they have to meet the existing residential character of the community without having a negative impact on it. So where we are right now, currently right now, we don't have an opportunity to gather data from the short-term rentals. We aren't collecting the hot taxes for them. Our current cases are essentially through SUP, which is a long process. And as you have seen through several complaints from the community, that it appears to be subjective, and they at times have shared that the safety and decisions on where they are located and their deeds may not be appreciated, hence why we are presenting this text amendment. Future state, what we want to do is we want to be able to capture these short-term rentals and place them on our GIS map. We want to be able to collect our hotel occupancy taxes. We want to be able to make certain the short-term rentals register and they're in compliant, and we have some type of regulations that will capture the safety and inspection for those short-term rentals. What you have before you, I'm not going to address all of these, but one thing in terms of registration, There will be, according to the text amendment that we're providing, there will be a yearly permit fee and inspection. We will also capture hot taxes. There will be safety inspections as well by a designee of the city. Guest management. There will be postings with internal to the site, identifies who's the 24-hour contact. In terms of occupancy limits, we're looking at what's being proposed to you is essentially 2 people per room that's rented out plus 2. So if it's a 3-bedroom home, they can have 3 times 2, which is 6 plus 2 additional, so 8 people can stay in the unit. In addition to the parking, we're recommending 1 parking space plus 1 for each room that's rented out. I won't read over this slide, but more importantly, one thing I want to identify with the short-term rentals proposed regulations, what we think this would do for the city, it would allow the city to be proactive to address the changing markets and set clear expectations for property owners and residents. It will cause the property owner who has the short-term rental to be more in compliance and reach out to their HOAs to make certain that they're in compliance with whatever they have at that point. So that's what we're trying to make certain, that they are more self-regulated and we find a way to track these short-term rentals and be more consistent with our regulations. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this text amendment. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended denial of the proposed text amendment. Staff, based on our research, the information that we're providing to include the amendments for the 2025 ULDC, we're recommending approval for the short-term rental. And with that, I conclude my presentation. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Yeah, so kind of looking at that, you know, when you go back to the slide, you're doing a three-bedroom house times 2 plus 2. That's 8 occupants in a household. A lot of our short-term rentals generally here are not for vacation; they're for work. So generally, you're going to have 8 gentlemen there with 8 different vehicles in neighborhoods that weren't planning on having that many people parking in the driveway. Generally, in a neighborhood, you're going to have 3 cars, maybe 4 cars. Now you're going to have 8, which is going to put a big burden on the neighborhood. Emergency vehicles getting through there, the homeowners on that other part. And it's really not proper parking that we're now putting them on the street, right? And we know that there's some streets and some subdivisions where you can't park on the street and get an emergency vehicle through. You got other issues where there's some places that they can't park on the street, so they're parking on the grass, which then we have the issue of the grass becoming, them contaminants leaking into the grass, which then causes sewer issues and water issues. So there's a lot of issues that I've already addressed and talked about this, and how a lot of people know how I feel about this. I'm not a big fan of them, of what they're coming and what they're doing to some of our subdivisions. And I get we have deed restrictions and HOA restrictions that they have to comply with, but that's not us to comply with it. I just don't think that's enough. You're basically like in a 3-bedroom home putting 8 grown people living in there is what you're going to end up having. And then you're going to have what happens when they say, okay, well, I converted my garage into another room. So now that's, it's not what the original dwelling was meant to. It's not what the original development was meant for. It was not meant for this. And that's a big concern for me.
I understand, Commissioner. And I just wanted to address in terms of the parking. The way the text amendment is written, the parking have to be off-street parking stalls. So if the applicant who has the short-term rental does not have the space to allow parking in the driveway, they will be denied the short-term rental.
So, but when you're saying parking, the parking is going to be based on how many people are staying in there, or how many bedrooms?
It's based on how many rooms can be advertised to be rented out. So if it's 2 bedrooms.
So you're advertising 3 bedrooms, and if you have in a normal subdivision, like for instance in mine, you could put 3 cars on the street, but that doesn't account for the other gentlemen that are also coming with it to make it 5 more vehicles. So you're getting 3 cars parked. Yeah, that's fine, but you have 5 more that are still coming. That's the problem.
But it's per bedroom, not per person.
I understand that, but generally what a lot of our short-term rentals are for work. We don't get a lot of short-term rentals for vacation. So you get short-term rentals and you're going to get 6, 7 guys staying in a 3-bedroom house, and there's going to be 6 vehicles.
Did they supply that data?
Let's be realistic on what's going on in the city of Baytown. We don't have a lot of people coming for vacation.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, to your point, I would like to see the data for that, just to say that, to be realistic, it's not enough. But for me, it becomes convoluted. Now we're collecting a hot tax. So by definition, that facility becomes basically a general commercial facility in a residential neighborhood. It doesn't fit into the zoning maps. I mean, how does that? I guess it becomes a sticky situation.
Mr.
Yeah, if we're collecting a hot tax, does that define it as a general commercial?
No, sir.
business?
Under state law, it's residential, period. All of the cases that have discussed short-term rentals discuss it in the context of individual residential ownership. The hot tax issue does not impact that analysis.
And also, in addition, even if planning department wasn't bringing this tax amendment forward, our current 2025 ULDC requires short-term rentals to pay a hot tax.
Thank you for everything that y'all did to put into this. I did get to attend one of the P&Z meetings a while back. I think over 6 months ago when this conversation first started up again. Can we really and truly legally put a lot of bounds on Airbnbs or short-term rentals anyways? I mean, to me these ordinances are good to set up. I don't think we can dictate who's parking in streets and not parking in streets as long as they're within the bounds of the law or on a public street. So I know the concerns. I mean, where I live is very different than some of the areas in District 4. But I just want to make sure that whatever we're doing is within our legal jurisdiction, I guess is the way to word that.
So, Council, I'll answer that question the same way that I did when we talked about the SUP, and that is to say that to eliminate short-term rentals entirely is almost certainly unconstitutional.
That's what I was
We can place reasonable restrictions upon short-term rentals, but the boundaries, the left and right boundaries of that have not been decided by the courts. So this body, P&Z, staff, legal, can work together to figure out the best way that we can to determine what we're comfortable with. But there is no firm guidance from any court, Court of Appeals, or the Supreme Court on what it means to be reasonable.
So I want to make sure that we're doing what the citizens want, but I also want to make sure that Baytown is not operating or trying to set a precedent that I just don't know that this is our battle is where I'm going with this. I mean, I think it's good that I like what y'all did. I mean, I think it's good that we're asking them to permit to I'm reading all of these really quickly. I'm sorry. All the different things that you said. I won't reiterate all of them. But I don't know, Franco. I don't know that this is our battle.
I mean, think about corner Houston and Hafer. That's a 3-bedroom house. You got 7 people that are going to park on there. Where are they going to park? They're going to park on the street.
Can we legally tell people they can't
No,
park on a
can't,
street?
but you can change instead of having the parking limitations. You can adjust your parking limitations. Your parking limitations are based on 3.
So what he's
That's a
allowing.
room.
So if there's 3 rooms, they can have 4 vehicles.
There's 3 rooms they have. All they have to do is prove that they have 3 parking spots out off the street.
In the driveway.
In the driveway.
They have to prove they have 3 parking spots in the driveway, but you're going to get more than 3 people there.
Well, Commissioner, I would like to share in terms of one, the city of Baytown setting precedent. The text amendment that we're presenting to you are things that cities around us are currently doing. We've only looked at what cities around us are doing and other cities within the state of Texas, and we've taken portions of it that are applicable to the city of Baytown. So none of what we're presenting are new or precedent setting. These are already established in cities around us as of this moment.
No, just to be clear, I was agreeing with you, and I'm concerned with if we start limiting parking and things on people, the parallel to that. No pun intended. Sorry.
Well, so, you know, we're okay.
So I've been through other cities where they limit parking to just one vehicle, regardless of the number of bedrooms and regardless of the number of people that are in there. They limit it to just one vehicle, and that's it. Now, that might be extreme. I might go with like 2, but I think even staying within the parameters of what you can have within the driveway. If you can fit 2 vehicles in there, 3 vehicles, that's all you get. I think you're right that other people are going to go and they're going to have their own vehicles, but they have to abide by the rules of the short-term rental. They're signing that contract that states, I will only have X a number of vehicles.
Yeah, but we can only regulate what's in the driveway. You can park in the street all you want, and I get that and understand. But I mean,
that can be part of the contract.
And then we have to look at this, and I'm not trying to say anything bad. We're looking at Graham and Associates for a lot of our help to help us in what we're trying to do here. Mm-hmm. That's the mayor of Arlington. Arlington does not allow short-term rentals. Period. They're banned. So I mean, I get we're looking at some of the cities around us, but there's other cities that are just completely saying no.
The lawyer just told us that there was no.
But there's no left or right that says yes or no for sure.
No, but you said Arlington has them banned.
Yeah, so Arlington has them banned.
Which is it? Is it banned in Arlington?
It's banned, yet to be challenged. There are numerous cities that ban STRs, but yet to be challenged because the state has made it very clear to staff, lawyers that are working on this throughout the state, that it is coming from the state soon that cities will not be able to mess with STRs.
So I know the discussion's on short-term rentals, but what do we do when we have a rental home that, because that's what I'm dealing with right now, is I have a rental home, it's a 1-year lease, and they have 10 cars parked everywhere, so I don't understand how we regulate one and not the other, and we limit it to the driveway. I agree, no one wants that kind of that amount of vehicles parked out there. I just, who's going to,
like you said, you're having an issue with a 1-year lease. You're opening the Pandora's box to everybody now.
But we have an issue with people parking on the street, with people who are purchasing homes.
Yeah.
I actually turned on the corner the other day and a bus couldn't get down my street to drop kids off because people weren't parking in their driveways. My question is going to be, what's to stop someone from having a car, they park it on the street, and when someone knocks on their door, they just say it's not my automobile? I'm serious. I mean, at that point,
that's why I said, who's going to enforce it?
How can we enforce this?
Mayor and Council, that would be my advice to y'all as y'all talk through these regulations. What Calvin and the PDS team has brought to y'all are regulations that are around from other cities.
Mm-hmm.
The parking piece, how it's designed, and Calvin, please step in if I'm saying this incorrectly. How it's designed, it's only regulated at the very beginning in the permitting process, right? And so they only look at it during the permit approval. Do you have a 2-car garage and 2 spaces in the driveway? You do, you have 4, you meet the minimum requirement. The issue is, for the residents, that will be in the code that you have to have 4 parking spaces. So if we say that there has to be 4 parking spaces, and to Mr. Franco's point, 8 people show up, and then the citizens call to report it. How is that? And we won't know with each, say a home is a short-term rental, and they rent out 300 days out of 365 days to a different family for 300 different days. We will not know who's coming in each and every day. And so as you look at these regulations, I would ask you to consider, is it really enforceable? And if it's enforceable, great. If it's not enforceable, I would advocate that we already have too many ordinances we have too many ordinances that are unenforceable at this point. And it creates confusion not for just staff, but for the citizens as well.
And that's why I was asking the question, how are we going to enforce it? Because if it's not, what's the use of having it? Just to say you're going to check a box to get it approved, I don't know how I feel about that if we cannot enforce it.
Well, Mayor, what we're looking at, and what several other cities does, they work to hire a third-party consultant, and that third-party consultant is the one that tracks things, take complaints, respond to complaints, report it to the city, and move forward with the owner of the short-term rental to improve whatever deficiencies they have. In addition, within the text amendment, there's revocation authority that the Planning and Development Director has. Currently, it identifies if there's 3 enforcement or 3 instances where a property owner is not in compliance, the Planning Director has the ability to revoke their permit for short-term rental.
So my question now is going to be, we just had a work session where we discussed we have 0 latitude in our budget. What is it going to cost to hire a third party?
Right now, what we're looking at is, we looked at the city working with a third party that they did this, provided us information, and there appears to be over 80 short-term rentals within the city of Baytown as of this moment. When we looked at what at least 2 consultants who do these type of things in terms of tracking and compliance, with the rate that we're considering for permits and inspections, that would pay, the amount for those short-term rentals would pay for the third-party consultant. Right now, we're still talking, and there's further things to sort out, but at this point, it appears that the city would not come out of pocket in order to hire the third-party consultant. That's the intent.
To be clear, that's on the administration. That's not on enforcement from staff. That's on administration.
That was going to be my next question. Yes, ma'am.
If we did not pass this ordinance, would we be stopping short-term rentals in Baytown?
No, you would not. They would have to move forward through the special use permit process, and as I shared, currently we believe there are over 80 short-term rentals. So eventually, if citizens complain, they get a code enforcement, hence we saw on Ashwood Drive, then we would have a volume of those that comes through the Planning Commission and City Council, taking 3+ months for one SUP. And I think you can.
But we would have no way to stop the rental anyways during that time, correct?
This body could ultimately deny the SUP.
But could this body stop a homeowner from renting out their home as a short-term rental during that time?
Not literally during the time, because they would already be doing it. However, when they come to this body, and if this body denies the short-term rental, then
That doesn't mean that they're going to stop.
It doesn't.
Council, there may be other enforcement mechanisms. I don't think a public session is the time to discuss legal strategy, but if this is something you want to discuss in executive session, we can certainly do that.
I was saying that out loud because I think there's a perception that, if, due to some citizens contacting me about this, that there's a perception that if we don't pass this, that it somehow just stops all short-term rentals immediately. And if we do pass it, there are citizens that think that. So that's why I was just saying that out loud and getting that response. There's already 80 operating SUPs will have to come one at a time or two at a time or whatever, and it would be a very long, drawn-out process with litigation involved, potentially.
How many complaints have we had about for short-term rentals outside of Ashwood?
We only had one that actually moved forward to enforcement and had a special use permit from it.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Well, we're still in the public hearing. I can say my comments. We have folks signed up to speak.
Yeah, but I want to do this so
I
when
don't
they
have any
come.
questions.
Well, I've got some. You've got on here property limitations. So if this was passed, we would not issue a permit if they had deed restrictions or covenants with an HOA? So that puts us in an enforcement position of...
No, I don't think that's being recommended.
No, that is a civil matter. What's written within the text amendment, we are encouraging the property owner to reach out to their HOA to identify if that is an allowed use.
We need to be very careful about taking what could be perceived as an enforcement position of deed restrictions or HOA covenants. Because I tell you, from my perspective, I'm going to oppose that.
Yeah.
That's a civil issue. And I'm not going to get into an enforcement posture trying to enforce deed restrictions or HOA limitations. That's a civil matter. So that's my first concern. And if you've written that into the rules, I have concerns about that. Parking, one parking space per bedroom plus one, I think is a little tight, but reasonable. So I could go with that. Annual inspections, we require an annual inspection for the permit and an annual inspection for safety. And it's, all right, now we're inspecting them. I think that's too much. And so in some ways I agree with P&Z that what y'all have proposed is a little restrictive. Now I agree with the regulation, but let's not be, and I'll go back to a comment that was made when my first term, well, we're doing it because we can. We got to be real careful of that. Now, if it's a reasonable requirement or regulation, I'm good with it, but let's not be too restrictive. Guest management, sound monitoring, what rules or regulations are you going to put on that?
We would encourage it. That would
encourage it, and having it as a requirement in the permit process is two different things. So if you've written in there that there's going to be sound management or monitoring, what rules are you going to apply to that? The standard rules we have with the city, so that my neighbors gets allowed in the same issues, or are we doing more stringent issues with short-term rentals?
As I mentioned, we would encourage it. The property that was approved by the city council, the Ashwood, they actually volunteered to have a condition with sound monitoring.
But you're writing it into the rules. So these are proposed ordinance changes.
Encouraging. We're not requiring that. We're encouraging that.
Okay. So again, we're encouraging something. Again, unenforceable. So we have to be cautious with that. Sound monitoring, annual inspections. Again, two inspections a year. I agree with the one, but two. I mean, an annual inspection for permitting process. You're going to do the. Hopefully, you're looking for the fire extinguishers, carbon monoxide requirements, and everything else. This as you would for apartment complex. Internal signage. My understanding is that's required from some of the Airbnb stuff anyway. So that's my concern is that we're trying to regulate it out of existence, and that's where we can get into trouble with legal issues and stuff like that. It says number of occupancy limits. Number of occupants, is that minus one party or multiple? I mean, I don't know what that means.
It could be either or.
Huh?
It could be either or, one party or multiple parties. That would be on the property owner, how they do their applications and or contracts.
I would argue this is an unenforceable ordinance, Mayor and Council.
Yeah,
because we wouldn't know each day who would rent it.
Yeah, and nor should we. They get an annual permit, they go with it. I like the idea of charging the hotel motel because it's just like an apartment.
Yeah.
Also, short-term rentals. I've heard the discussion as well. there's going to be transient plant workers, stuff like that. I don't know of any turnaround that happens in 30 days. And if it's 31 days, this doesn't apply.
That is correct, Commissioner.
So again, we're not a major tourist destination point. Now, I did have somebody bring up the issue that, well, you know, when the event center gets finished off and built, that this may become more of an issue for the areas surrounding the event center because people will come and rent for a week or 10 days if there's major programs or whatever going on that. And I hadn't even thought of that.
For teams.
So that's kind of an interesting, but you know, folks don't come here to sit on the beach for 2 to 3 weeks. We don't have a beach. So we're not a major tourist destination point, so it would be for some of the activities that we have at our parks or whatever, but they're going to be here for short periods of time. But how do we know who rotates in, who rotates out? So again, unenforceable issues. Again, I have the same concerns as certain members of the P&Z that this was a little bit over regulation. So that's my comments. And as far as parking, again, 1 parking space per bedroom. Typically, if you have a 3-bedroom house, you're going to have a 2-car garage. Your driveway's going to hold 2, so that's 4. You meet the standard. If they have friends or guests come and visit or whatever, they're going to park in the street just like everybody else does. So it kind of, and how would we regulate? I don't want to get y'all involved in looking at everybody's contracts for renting a house for 10 to 15 days. Y'all have plenty to do without that. And if you don't, I'm sure we can find some stuff for you.
We're good.
So, the city manager tells me how busy y'all are all the time, and I agree that y'all are busy. So those are my concerns. Again, I understand the community has concerns, but potentially 80 in town, and we've only had 1 come to us, and that's the one that we're dealing with now. We gave an SUP to. I just, if it was 10 or 15 or 20 complaints and on different addresses and major problems, and that's a completely different story. But at this point, I think it's kind of I won't say a non-issue, but it's just we're spending a whole lot of time on something that's not a major issue.
I'm going to get this city attorney. He wants to say something.
Yes, Council, I just wanted to reiterate, and we discussed this during the SUP matter, that the city cannot, does not, and will not enforce deed restrictions or other private agreements between citizens. Can't do that, and that's not what this ordinance is designed to do.
Got you. Councilman?
I thought of a question. On the occupancy limits, because we kind of have the limit of people based on the number of rooms, and then you talked about the parking limitations. So if you had if I'm doing all the math right, if you had a 3-bedroom house, it would be able to hold 8 people, right?
That's correct, Commissioner.
The parking limitation was based on the number of rooms.
Based on the number of rentable rooms.
Rentable, so it would be that same house, 3-bedroom, would hold 8 people and would need how many parking spaces?
4 parking
4,
spaces.
because it's that plus 1. So if it only had 3 parking spaces, would we say they could only list the 3-bedroom house for a max of 6 people? Would we say that 1 room is unusable? Or how would that, or you just deny it altogether because they don't have enough parking? Like, how would that work?
There would be a denial. What they would do, submit their application for a permit, and we would review, or the third party would review the application based on what they have before them. If they have a 3-bedroom, but they can only show 2 parking stalls or 3 parking stalls, then if they're saying 3 bedrooms, then they would be denied of that application. But if they said 2, then they would be approved of that application.
So they just update their application to list 1 less room?
That is correct.
And then change it online tomorrow?
Well, what we've identified the third party would be able to do, they would be able to, in real time, follow all listings through the major sites. So they would keep up with when the short-term rental is rented. They would keep up with how many rooms are being rented. So they would track all of that data.
Okay. I guess where I'm at on this is I don't disagree with putting regulations in place to some extent. I mean, we have if our numbers are right, the rough estimates right, we have 80 short-term rentals out there, and we're aware of one of them. So, I mean, we have 79 unregulated short-term rentals right now. So I'm not opposed to putting some level of regulations in place. It may not go as far as what some people want to see, but I mean, I think 79, halfway regulated is better than 79 not at all unregulated short-term rentals. But I think before I would approve this change, I'd like to hear from one of these administration companies you're talking to. I'd like to know how they're doing this in other cities. Like, what are they actually enforcing? What does that look like? And what can we really do that, at a net zero cost to the city? Is it the fees and the hot tax, whatever it may be, is that enough to cover this entire service? And do they really have the teeth to enforce whatever we put in here? I think I'd like to hear, and maybe there's some other cities around us that are already doing it, maybe, that could come and share. Maybe someone from their planning department from a neighboring city would be willing to come share with us. I would just like to see, how does this actually, how do we actually put this into effect? I mean, it's great to put some regulations in place, but if it's unenforceable, like we've said, or overbearing, I mean, you can go either way with that. I don't really want to. I don't want to put a bad ordinance in place just for the sake of rushing this through. I think I'd like to hear from some of these contractors, administrators, whatever you want to call them, and how are they really working with other cities, and share their data with us, and I'd like to see if it's actually been successful.
Council, and in deference to Councilmember Powell, the city manager says I wordsmith things too much, but I think that's part of my job description. Just so that the public is aware, I think what the council member meant is that we have 79 non-compliant uses right now.
Yes.
They are regulated. They're just not in compliance with the current ULDC.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Keep us out of trouble.
Wordsmithing.
Wordsmithing. I'm going to reiterate the question that came from the mayor. What's the cost of the third party? I understand we're going to cover that with the 80 proposed, but what if we pass this ordinance and 40 of them said, we're not doing it anymore?
Yeah.
We're just going to double the fee to cover the cost? I'd like to know what the cost of the third party is.
Well, from what we looked at, the couple of third parties that we looked at, they provide more of an a la carte service. For what we're looking at in this, the fees that we're looking at would cover what we're looking for.
I want to know the number.
Right now, we were looking at approximately $300, $200 for the permit and $100 for the annual inspection.
And that's what the consultant's going to cost us?
No, that's how much the permit and annual inspection would cost, and that would cover the full cost of hiring the consultant.
Okay, you're not answering my question. How much is the consultant potentially going to cost us?
Well, right now, until we get a contract in front of them and we can solidify the options that we're looking for, we can't get a solid price until we get that information.
But it was below the $24,000 that we would collect, is from what I remember. If we have 80 properties and they pay $300 a year for this process, that's $24,000. And so I believe when we chatted, y'all were less than $24,000. I don't remember the specific number, but it was less than $24,000.
That's what I'm shooting for. I want to know the number, because that's the question the mayor asked. And so again, if it's less than 24,000 and we have 80 and 40 of them drop off.
If 40 of them drop off, we're going to have a lot of happy homeowners.
Yeah, well.
But he said
we're
it's a la
not
carte.
going to be able to pay
So
for the consultant.
But if he's a la carte, then
40 less
if 40
short-term
drop off, then you only pay for 40?
Yeah.
You only pay per.
Instead of us speculating what the cost would be, I think it would be best if we come back with a consultant and talk through all those things, because it probably does grow a little bit depending on the service that you're asking them to do.
And the other thing is, like we just talked about last council meeting, the fees, right? We were talking about for inspection fees and everything. We just raised those up. if you're taking $300 to say $24,000, well, how much is it costing us to do also? You got 70, 80 inspections, and we have our inspectors going out for 2 hours, 3 hours. That ain't covering it either. So this needs to be about almost $1,000 to $1,500 a home. $300 ain't going to cover.
Yeah, we got to build in inspection.
Yeah, for well, you got to field our cost.
No,
vehicles,
our inspectors would not be doing it.
It'd be the third
The
party.
consultant's going to do the health
The third
inspection and
party.
everything, and do all that stuff. They have the jurisdiction to go look at, to do all the structural inspections and everything for free. Man,
We've looked
let me know
at
who their number is, 'cause
we've
they're
looked
cheap.
at technologies that they could use to be successful in this venture, and that's what they would be utilizing.
Yeah, please bring them. I'd love to see that. Don't even mention that company.
So we have people for sign up.
Yeah, we're going yeah. So now, thank you, Mr. Abram. We're going to go ahead and go in and do some. We have Mr. David Corder signed up to speak, and we have Mrs. Marie Drusnowski, who's passing time to Mr. Corder. It's well, I'm just reading how it is here. So we're going to have Mr. Corder giving time to Mrs. Drunowski. Okay, good deal. Mrs. Drunowski, you are going to have 6 minutes, and if you would please state your address for record.
Marie Drunowski, 4705 Burning Tree, Baytown, Texas, president of Country Club Oaks Civic Association. I hope everyone had a chance to read the article the Country Club Oaks Civic Association shared regarding short-term rentals in Texas towns. I also encourage you to look into additional perspectives on this issue. I've done my own research and reached out to officials in Kingwood, Arlington, Fort Worth, Dallas, and League City. They offered useful insights and a range of approaches to managing short-term rentals. One key takeaway is that thoughtful regulation takes time. For example, Dallas spent several years from 2019 to 2023 gathering community input, conducting research, and holding multiple meetings before finalizing its ordinance. This was not a process completed in just a few months. Across the board, these cities treat short-term rentals as businesses and collect hotel occupancy taxes accordingly. I'd also like to share 2 examples from Country Club that illustrate the real impact short-term rentals have had on a neighborhood. In one case, a property generated repeated disturbances whenever it was rented: loud music, excessive noise, cars blocking streets and driveways, and significant litter left behind, including trash, bottles, and even diapers. There were also incidences involving gunfire. The homeowner, who stayed on site in a travel trailer, did not intervene, leaving law enforcement to manage the situation. In another instance, a large dinner with 20 to 30 guests along with hired staff caused similar disruptions. Parking again blocked access to streets and driveways, and large amounts of trash were left behind. Overflowing bins sat on the street for days, followed by empty containers left out even longer. This gathering was not held at the host's own home. They brought the impact into our neighborhood, and residents were left with the inconvenience and aftermath of the dinner. The cities I spoke with have taken creative approaches to limit or deny short-term rentals in single-family residential areas, and have emphasized the importance of community input. Since the current Baytown proposed regulations were developed without community input, I would like to suggest the following additions to that. Define bedrooms strictly based on original house plans. No converting living spaces such as dens, living rooms, or sunrooms into sleeping areas. Limit each property to 1 rental unit. For example, 5111 Ashwood currently operates 2 short-term rentals on the property. Implement permit fees, renewal fees, and inspection fees to help offset enforcement and monitoring costs. Clearly define parking rules, which you've been talking about, whether limited to driveway or if street parking is allowed. Require posting of emergency contact numbers, house evacuation routes, and inspection documentation inside the house. Establish clear responsibility for enforcement, including handling violations, suspensions, and revocations. Who is called when there is a violation of the policy? Cap the number of short-term rentals per neighborhood or subdivisions to 2 to preserve community character. Require background checks for all adult renters. Recognize that Baytown is not a resort destination and tailor regulations to the typical use and clientele. Provide HOAs and civic associations with an update list of short-term rental properties, including owner names and contact information. Country Club Oak residents do not want short-term rentals in our single-family residential area neighborhood or in any other single-family neighborhood in Baytown. There are other areas of Baytown that short-term rentals would make a better fit. This could easily be fixed by limiting short-term rentals to mixed-use zoning districts and commercial zoning areas. That would eliminate single-family residential areas. Given the scope and impact of this issue, I strongly recommend postponing any vote on this matter until further research is conducted and additional neighborhoods are notified so residents can provide meaningful input. And talking about where a location would be, I thought about this, and with the new building, I don't know what you're going to call it, the ExxonMobil building, and its proximity to Market Street, that area down there by the park and everything with those houses would be an ideal spot to have short-term rentals. They could come in, renovate their houses, make them look nice, rent them out. People have access, short access to going to Lee College, getting a basketball game, going swimming, going to the new convention, to the new center, ExxonMobil Center. There are bars down there. There is that speakeasy down there, a place to walk. That would be an ideal place instead of putting them into residential areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Nora Smith.
My concern also is with...
Well,
okay, sorry. Nora Smith, 5007 Ashwood. And we've had, even with long-term rentals, had some problems on that street and everything. And as I said, we need to have people be vetted. And how, with the short-term rentals, how can they be vetted? We've had problems with people not being vetted and background check on long-term rentals. And there's been problems with that, with vandalism, theft. Even had somebody come over and pour hair dye on the mailbox, that kind of thing. I finally knocked on the door and said, I will be calling the police, because we had teens and preteens, unsupervised, wandering around the street at night. It was a problem. My other concern is the having absentee landlords. That's one of the problems some other cities have, is they say, okay, here, if you have a problem with this rental place, you can call this company, and then they'll just get a transfer to an out-of-state number and no help at all. I believe on this 55111, this LLC that you granted the SUP for, what do you consider local? Do you consider local is somewhere in Texas? Do you consider local the United States? This man here, Sandeep Dahl, I believe his name was, he's listed as being Leander. That's in Austin area. That's not local, my viewpoint. Maybe it is in yours. He's also listed as being in California, which is what's his location? I mean, is that going to be part of what you also... Are you going to make sure that the person who's renting this is local and available for any issues? It's just, I think we all know. And you've got problems like Houston has had problems with theirs because just you see all these kind of problems. If you do any kind of looking about this, here's the short-term rentals in Houston. Houston has a big problem because they don't have the zoning that Baytown does. So they're trying to figure out what to do. They have the thing is the rising noise, violent crime, neighborhood disruptions. And it's affecting the rental, contributing, as they say, to a lack of affordable housing, and you have the problem with monitoring. They're having as I said with the calling, they keep getting all out of center call centers when somebody calls to complain. And if I had known, I could have given you more time. I thank you.
Thank you. Chet Thies.
Hello, Mayor, Council. My name is Chet Thies. I live at 211 Post Oak Drive in Lakewood. I was not prepared to speak tonight. Didn't even know about this meeting until late this afternoon. I crossed paths with the mayor here at City Council or in City Hall. Didn't even know this meeting was going on tonight. The short-term rentals was on the agenda. Been talking about it for a long time. It's been an issue in my neighborhood. Heard a number of people throughout the city talk about it. But I'm also a real estate appraiser who holds a broker's license. And I can tell you there's a lot of people, and I don't quite know that this room is hearing the noise. People are talking about it. It's out there, maybe a little bit of an undertow, but it's concerning to me that it doesn't seem like it's being really listened to and considered. I know every one of you will probably argue that, and I understand that, but it is a real issue. Just to come speak this evening, first thing I thought of, I'll make a list real quick. One other thing real quick. This came to my attention back when when you were my councilman. We had a meeting here at City Hall with the former city manager, and we were talking about some of these things. It was an issue back in 2000. The reason I know that timestamp wise was because that's when COVID hit. We had to put that meeting off before we could meet, and that got lined out. So we finally did have the meeting. And then we added another 2 properties to that list of 4 already. These properties are underground. They're not advertising very much. Now, there's some that are on Verbo and Airbnb, but there's an awful lot of these that are underground. Just like people say, well, how do they find out about these? Well, how do they find out about the houses that are for rent? And the word gets out, people get it, and it's underground. I don't say it's word to mouth and neighbor to neighbor, but there's an element of that. I can tell you now, there's a lot more than 80-something properties that would fall into short-term rentals. I don't want to say it's double that, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was double that. There's a lot. To get to a list of issues and things that I've considered, just made a list. First off, destruction of neighborhoods. Because I'm not looking, I understand these will work fine in a lot of Baytown short-term rentals will probably be fine. There's some neighborhoods, and I understand it's not the city's job to enforce deed restrictions. That's a given. I understand that. But where those deed restrictions are in line with our zoning of short-term rental, SF1 type neighborhoods, single-family residential only, I think consideration ought to be made. It's like, okay, City Council, Planning and Zoning, look at where those zoning ordinances match up with the deed restrictions. It's deed restricted to single-family only and also zoned single-family only. There's been some changes in zoning, and that's another topic for another day that I'm ready to talk about here real soon, because we changed some zones that lack all common sense. I don't have it just a minute longer. Is it?
You need a minute longer? Well, hold on.
I'll wrap it up real quick.
Well, no, hold on. I need a motion to extend Mr.
Second. Thank you, guys.
All in favor?
Aye.
Go ahead, you got 1 minute.
I'll try to wrap it up real quick. In reference to those destruction of a neighborhood, it's just a start. And some of our neighborhoods already have some serious image issues and some things undermining neighborhoods. Not that that's in your germane, but it's issues. We know you've heard what a nuisance they are in some cases. In fact, just to highlight one in my neighborhood, this took place on Halloween night. I don't know if it's 3 years ago or 4 years ago. Baytown Police was called after a gunshot. They don't know if it's a suicide, which is what I never did hear the final story on it. I don't know if it was a suicide or a murder, but the Baytown Police showed up ready for a murder. And the neighbors, none of the neighbors knew how many police cars we had in this town until that happened that evening. Anyway, where I'm going with that is there's a lot of serious issues that come with these things because of a party that was going on at that property. My time's up. I've got a lot of other things that I'd like to talk to you guys about, but I really do appreciate it. I agree with Ms. Brunowski. Please put this off. It's not that it's that sophisticated of a conversation, but there's a lot to it.
That's it.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Guys.
Good deal. Okay, any other comments? All right, there being no one else desiring to speak, I close this public hearing at 8:15 p.m. Concerning the proposed text amendment to Chapter 111 of the Unified Land Development Code to update regulations for short-term rental operations in residential and mixed-use zoning districts. And now we are on to 4B, consider an ordinance for a proposed text amendment to Chapter 111 Unified Land Development Code of the Baytown Code of Ordinance to revise Division 2.3 and 10.2 of the ULDC regarding short-term rental operations within residential and mixed-use zoning districts. Mr. Abram.
Yes, Mayor.
Anything else?
No, that is complete.
Okay, so what I'm going to say is, I don't know that we're ready to, I believe we need more time. Okay, Ms. Drusnowski, I appreciate your comments, and I can agree with what you said in not rushing through this and taking our time. So I am going to need a motion, but I am open to receiving a motion to maybe table this or suspend it so that we can have more time to discuss this.
60 days.
I'm fine with that.
Move to suspend for a minimum of 60 days.
Well,
Or for, let's see, that's May, by the to bring it back by the second meeting in June. That's about 60 days.
Well, you know, one of the things we discussed and we heard from our constituents was getting that community input. Within that 60 days, are we able to put something together to get that community input?
Maybe we can do a workshop or something.
What are you trying to achieve?
Just hearing from the community to see what they would like, and
if they say ban it, are we going to ban it?
Well, that's where I was getting to.
Right.
We can actually have conversation about. They may suggest something. It may or may not be legal.
Okay.
But the only way we're going to know that is if we have dialogue with them, and city attorney can advise us on some things.
Okay. What are we doing outside of that in the 60 days? There was no consensus gathered on what you want to change in the ordinance.
I'm not really clear on what we want either. I know we want more time, but that's actually, I was going to ask for clarification. What are we asking staff to do? Are we asking them to amend this? Or are we asking them to come back? Like, I don't even know what we're asking at this point, other than we want more time.
I was asking for more time so that they could come and tell us. I like some of the points that she made, to be honest with you. I don't know if anyone was taking notes on it, but that would give them an opportunity to voice their concerns for us to hear, and then staff can go back, work it, wordsmith it, whatever, bring it back to us, and we can say, okay, we like this or we don't like it, and get it approved. We have 60 days. That's going to be 4 meetings. I believe we can put some time aside in a workshop or bring it back for discussion in the meeting.
We are actually only having one meeting in May because of graduation.
No, we're going to go ahead and have 2. Graduation is going to be the week before.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And I think we already had Mr. Powell mention some of the things that he wanted to hear, which is something that we can wait for.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear from one of these consultants to kind of understand like what do they typically do when
Right.
they work with cities.
I do hear y'all on things, but one member asking to hear something does not give me direction on what council wants. And so I would need 4 of you to agree on what you want so that we know what we are bringing back. And I'm not trying to push back, I'm just trying to
Well,
get
I'll
clarity.
say
So
it,
that,
bring it back for discussion so that we can hear from them, and then we can give direction from there on what we want to have brought back within that 60-day period.
so we're just having an open Q&A with the same ordinance that's currently in place.
No.
That's what I'm seeking
Yeah, I
clarity
think
on.
we all want to see what the consultant's offering, what that cost is going to be, how we're going to incur, it, what they can and cannot enforce, if it's something that is can't even be done.
But why would we do that if we're not even accepting this ordinance? I don't.
Because why would I accept the orders if I don't even know how much the cost is going to be and if they can even enforce the ordinance?
Council, if I may, with regard to any discussion with a consultant who is not currently under contract, I would ask you to avoid that. I think staff can probably come up with information for you in that regard,
Okay.
but I would ask that you avoid hearing from any potential vendors until we're ready to bring a contract to you.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think you can get some of the kind of the parameters, what they offer, kind of a brochures and how that's all going to come together. You can put something together for us, correct? On that part.
We already have that information. That's what we use to come up with the
But I
pricing
mean,
that
something
we
we
have.
can see with the brochure, kind of seeing, hey, this is what they're going to offer. This is everything they're offering.
Well, Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead.
Mr. City Attorney, I don't know if this is what you were alluding to. If we look at one flyer or brochure, I mean, this is something that would potentially need to bid, and so we can't just be targeting one particular vendor.
I don't mean one flyer. I mean, you can kind of look at all. You can look at 6 flyers and kind of put a presentation together on on the city's behalf, saying this is what things can be offered and stuff like that.
I think staff can put something together for you without running afoul of any procurement requirements.
Okay, and then going back to this, there were some things that we clearly said we didn't like, some things said that we were open to. Readjust it, bring it back to us. That'll give them an opportunity to get more citizens to show up and be involved where they can hear and we can get some feedback.
Yes, sir. I do understand that. I'm just not. I'm trying to clarify what exactly you're getting feedback on, other than just having an open Q&A session.
We're getting feedback on the things that, some of the things that she mentioned, I liked it. I would want to see if that's even possible. We clearly said there were some things in here we didn't like because it was going to be too stringent or is unenforceable.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
So redo it, bring it back to us so we can discuss it.
But that's my question to y'all. Y'all did not give a consensus on what you don't agree with.
Yeah, so yeah, I feel like we need a list, Mayor. Like,
Okay,
yeah, because
okay.
when you're saying
I
that,
I
I'm really
understand.
not clear on who liked what. I know there was things about parking, things about, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. I could tell that it looked like we didn't, as a group, support this, but I
Yeah.
didn't know where we wanted to go either.
Okay.
And then as far as community involvement, I don't know what we're doing with that either because there's been, I mean, Mr. Thies talked about being here 6 years ago and talking about this, and
Well,
we've had several P&Zs,
whenever
and
we
we've
talked,
had.
whenever we talked about it 6 years ago, we were basically told we couldn't do anything with short-term rentals. So that's why it didn't go anywhere. Now
I
that
just
we
want a
know,
clear goal for what we're doing.
yeah,
That's
well,
all.
let's go around and say the things that we did or didn't like to give them some direction.
I
Will you
don't,
put it back up, please, the ordinance?
yeah, and I don't know if we're spinning our wheels here or really ironing out what we really want. I've already brought up the only thing that I just think that we're allowing too many cars, but other than that,
Too
I
many
didn't have
cars?
any issues. I mean, I agree with Councilman Powell that I would like to see more of the figures and things that the contractor consultant would really be able to do. If this is what the consultant will do, then I don't know if we need to bring it back. So I'm just,
That's where I'm at,
Yeah.
Mr.
Well, Mike, some of the things that you mentioned, would you go back over some of those?
Sure, and I would like to see us have an open work session with the actual proposed ordinance, so I can see what's specifically in there. Because again, I'm looking at the chart that you provided, and the bottom one says property limitations, deed restrictions, covenant rules, and then the comment is, well, we're going to encourage them to do that. I want to see the code. I want to have a work session that shows me the code, because that's what we're going to have to use to make it enforceable.
Yes, sir.
And if it's like, well, it's really it's in there, but we're just recommending. That's not a code. So again, my concerns were sound monitoring. How we're going to do that. I agree with the I can't think of her.
Mr. Nowski.
Ms. Gronowski's comment. It needs to be real clear who's going to enforce this, which goes back to it's unenforceable. A third party administratively consultant can't enforce it. They could probably send it over to us and say, well, they're in violation.
That's it.
Okay.
So
We have 1,300 employees. Who's going to go out there and enforce that? And if it comes back to staff, well, that's an extra burden on staff. But we need to be aware of that.
Do we then ask to write an ordinance to ban air? That's what I'm asking is like if we.
I think we'll get in trouble if we try to ban it.
That's where I was trying to explain, and I can't find the words tonight.
Yeah. But
I
I
agree
think
that
we
I want to
just
over-enforce.
need to go through the code and say, here are the changes. We're changing X to Y, W to Z, and we can say, well, that part we don't agree with or agree with. Listening to our citizens or constituents out there in general and coming back. We have one council member is concerned about the number of vehicles. I think the rule is too tight. So, and then the 2 inspections, we have a permanent inspection, and then we have a safety inspection. I think that's too stringent. Let's have a inspection, annual inspection that covers all that. Is that written specifically in the code, or is it 2 separate inspections?
So,
The cost, again, I know we can't hammer the cost down specifically, but we should be able to see a chart of here's a menu of items that if we get the consultants to do this, it costs us approximately X. So we'll know. I mean, we get, oh man, I'm going to get in trouble here. We make decisions on information that's provided. I don't have enough information, and it's tough to make that decision.
Yeah, because, I mean, looking at what you're saying, the rule right here, like 7, it says the property owner and/or property management must comply with the following rules. It then says that 7D, the owner is responsible, right? But then you go to 7G, says the use of interior monitoring device is encouraged to help ensure compliance. But it's saying at the top, the following rules, you're kind of grayish a little bit there.
Yeah. So again, I'd like to work session. We can walk through those sections one by one.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Council, I'm a little confused. I know you didn't get the
It was available in the document.
this draft because Calvin and I have been working on it, but Exhibit A to the staff report is this document. So the changes should be available in Exhibit A.
The document was provided. I didn't mean to mislead that. That was provided, but I think a verbal workshop working through this so we can, because we feed on each other's questions sometimes. I might read something and think, oh, that's okay. My colleague may bring up a concern of that, and all of a sudden it brings up a concern for me as well.
we just had that open discussion though. I mean, there was really not very many questions from this dais on this item.
Well, I'm not going to say it wasn't very many questions. I think it was. I have an issue with the property limitations. I have an issue with the occupancy.
Can we amend it right now?
Yes.
I mean, can't we just amend it? If we go and we do a workshop and we do all this, y'all just need more time? Is that just to amend what's on here? Because there's only a couple options. We amend what we see to the things that we like or we don't like, or we are saying we don't want an ordinance at all, and we get a bunch of SUPs and we go from there, and or we ban Airbnb short-term rentals. I feel like there's like 3 big
Wow.
ticket items we can do.
I think it's 2. I don't think we're gonna ban short-term rentals because it may come back on us.
So a workshop to amend, to discuss each item and then amend.
And to better
then more
understand it
ordinance.
and what we can and can't do.
Okay.
This was just for the council. This was actually meant as a workshop item today, only because the workshop before this was 2 hours, and we're booked solid for the next few months. And so we were trying to put it in the council agenda just as a open discussion. Just so y'all know, that's how booked we are with like things y'all. We're gonna have, if we want to do this in June, we're probably gonna need to start around 4 to have another workshop on this to do another discussion. This has already been an hour.
It has. So what about future agendas? Are we booked up on future agendas?
Not on future agendas, Mayor. No, we just put it on this one because we already knew that workshops are going to be. Y'all had asked us to bring this back by May, and so we didn't have a place to put it on the workshops, and so we brought it into the agenda.
Gotcha.
I think to appease my colleagues, and if they want to give it some more thought, I would be okay tabling it for 60 days and see if we get any further on this.
I'm okay with all that. I just
Yeah.
need to know if staff needs to do anything in between. That's the only clarity I'm seeking. I'm happy to do whatever y'all want. I just need to know if the team needs to work on anything.
Wouldn't we have, before the agenda is created, to submit anything for this agenda item
From the citizens?
from
us?
From us. Like if there's something that we want to amend or add or change, or if Mr. Powell is able to get information, or we're all able to get information, any further information, then we can just come to you during our agenda, or
Yes,
before
ma'am.
the agenda is set, and
Yeah.
give our recommendations.
Okay. Do y'all
I
trust
mean,
me
is
to
that
use my
fair?
judgment
Is
to,
that-
if you have 4 or not?
I trust you.
Okay.
My questions are just going to be around what does this look like to actually, if we pass it tonight, what happens tomorrow? Like how do we enforce it? That's the
So-
question I'd like to have more clarity
Right.
around.
I will give you all my experience of the consulting firm that will probably be used if this goes forward. What they do, and Calvin had talked about, they use a digital, most of it is done from a desk. Okay? Almost every piece of it is done from a desk. They look at the pictures that are posted online. They see if the fire extinguishers in the photos. They see if the maps on the door. They see if you have a garage or parking spaces. Almost all of it is done online.
So no one comes out at all.
I'm not saying that. I'm giving you past experience on. That's why the cost is so cheap, right? To Mr. Franco's point, how are you able to do this for $300 a unit and do inspections? Because he's right, it costs more than that for our workers to do an inspection. So a majority of this stuff is done online, and it's I don't know what the consulting firm even is. The crux of the permit is because all of that is done by and large at the very beginning of the permitting process. Okay? I'm not saying that nobody goes and checks for life safety in the house. I'm not saying that. But a majority of it is done from they apply online. They say, here's a photo of my house. Here's a photo of the interior. Here's how many rooms I have. Does it meet the requirements? Does it have, if it's a 3-bedroom home, does it have 2-car garage and 2 cars in the driveway? It meets the parking limitations. Does it have 3 bedrooms? Okay, on your permit says you can only have 8 people in the house. That's how it goes. And then they get a permit. After they get a permit, if any complaints come in, right, it's for staff to still go out and it's for PD actually to go out and address the complaints. It's not for anybody else. Because when they call, it's a 911 call by and large to complain about something, and PD goes and checks it just like you would a house party, right? That's what happens. The administrative stuff on the PDS side is just getting the permit issued. I don't know if that answers your question or not. I know there's more to your stuff, but that's the general rundown.
And Mayor, if I can add to that, again, this is why we should be able to go through this. Section 5A says that they have to make arrangements to schedule a fire marshal's inspection of the property for the initial.
That's the life safety one I was talking about.
Or his designee.
Or his obviously, or his designee. And then in 7, residential character, it talks about the property owner is responsible for complying with all applicable rules, covenants, and restrictions of any homeowner, HOA, or similar subdivision of management organization. Again, that's leery of enforcing deed and HOA. That's a slippery slope for us to get into. So again, that's why if we have a work session, we go through this. I think we could resolve for staff as we go through these. Nope, I'm not going to go with that. Nope, I have concerns here. Re-inspections, there's an inspection fee. Again, let's make sure we're aware of what the fees are going to be. Revocation issues, okay, so they could have their permit revoked if they're not following all these rules and regulations. So if they're not compliant with HOA, they're going to get their permit revoked?
That's not for us. We should not be involved with that. I agree
that's
with
what
you.
I keep
Yes,
going
sir.
back to. It's kind of it's inferred, and it's kind of, we have to make sure we get this clean if we're
Right.
going to do it.
And if the rest of the council's okay with that, and we want to bring it back to a work session just to go line item by line item, like Mr. Lesser is suggesting, we can do that. I just need to know what council wants as a whole to do.
I'm fine
That's
with
all I
it.
was asking.
That's it.
So my team is telling me we can possibly get this in onto an early work session for June 11th. And that will be the one where it was come back, and we would go line by line from this. And so I'm just clarifying, there's no expectation for PDS to go do any additional work at this point, other than maybe bringing more info on how the inspection process works out.
I would like to see at that work session addressing the constituents, what they're asking for, what we can do, what we can't do, and why we can't do it.
To
Right.
understand that, to what extent? Like everything that everybody wants, or are there a few things that we need to look at?
Based on what was presented to us by our constituents.
Okay.
Okay, so there's a lot of questions about what other cities have done and what they're expecting for us. I want those concerns addressed and what they think we could do versus what we can actually do and why we can't do it.
Okay.
Does that make...
I think it's a little kind of what me and you were talking about today.
Right.
And I think
This is what we could do. This is,
and we had a good discussion. We talked about and brought up some legal cases.
Right.
So we're still we kind of
I understand.
see that part.
Right.
I think that's what
I want that
what we're running
addressed.
Some of that's also been discussed at the P&Z meetings in great length. There's been 2 P&Z meetings, and so that's also a resource that we can give some of the citizens that they can see some of the questions answered already.
Yeah,
but there seems to be an opinion that when we're not getting the best. I'm not saying we are, and I believe we are, but we're not getting the best legal advice. But we want to show them, hey, this is why we can't do it legally, if to address certain issues.
Well,
I think we're getting phenomenal legal advice. But I want
Thanks,
to
sir.
I want it to
I was like, the bikers guy, the biker.
Yes, ma'am.
I feel that I don't know if that. Well, some of it could be a legality, some of them, but on the others, those are the wants of a neighborhood. And some of the things are the wants of a neighborhood that we can't go in there and say, no, you can't have this, or yeah, we're going to do it, because we have other neighbors that maybe they're okay with it or they don't care about it. So, and not to discredit the members that have come here, and I applaud them for coming, and they've been very consistent, and I truly appreciate that. But I haven't seen a widespread need for further regulation. And if there is, maybe this next work session would give us that. And so, are we tailoring everything on one particular area,
I don't think
Or-
we're tailoring everything to one particular area. The people who show up help make decisions.
I understand that.
And these individuals show up, we post the meetings, other people have the opportunities to show up, but most people don't show up unless it's a nuisance or something that's negatively affecting them. And we went through that in 2017 with the annexation. And the people who did show up, we made a decision not to annex them because they showed up and spoke up. And now we're hearing back from other people on another issue who didn't show up back then. So the people who show up, they help make the decision. And I'm not going to say that we're tailoring it for one neighborhood, but we're hearing from citizens and we're making our decisions based off of the ones that we're here from.
Which is why I mentioned that could be done in the workshop that Mr. Lester mentioned.
So we're gonna have a workshop, we're gonna go line by line, looking at everything, and then make a decision on June 11th.
That's it.
Can it be in a workshop and then or they'll need more time to redo the ordinance?
You can amend the
It'll
ordinance.
be amendment.
So we
At
just
that
amend
point,
it, could
yeah.
we vote on it that night too on June 11th?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Everybody agree?
Yeah, we're done.
Consensus?
All right.
Well, that was fun.
So we still got a motion on the table.
Yes.
Yeah,
Did we
motion
get a
to
second?
suspend to the second, no later than the second meeting in June.
Second.
That's the June 11th, right? June 11th.
Well, no
Second.
later than the second meeting in June.
No later. Second.
Were you
All in
seconding it,
favor?
or you-
Yes,
okay.
I was seconding him.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Calvin. At the request of the applicant, 4C and 4D have been pushed. We are now on to discussions. 5A, discussion regarding closed session agenda items. Mr. Kenrick Griffin.
I know it's getting kind of late. Is there a way we could push this discussion for another time,
Another public hearing.
or are y'all okay with going on?
I'm here, I'm okay with it.
You
Yeah,
okay?
let's go ahead.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank Jason Reynolds for putting this discussion item on the agenda. Just a brief discussion. I'll try to keep it brief. I want to discuss the way we post our executive session and closed session items. As I looked it up, TML allows us a little leeway to post these sessions to where the language is rather broad. But I was wanting to see how council felt about posting closed sessions items in a manner that's more specific, especially when it applies to our litigations. TML recommends best practices for transparency and public trust to post the nature of litigations. For example, the city versus Jane Doe, or economic development the language should be more pointed. I believe posting the nature of our executive sessions could help bolster transparency. I know that the city's done a phenomenal job over the last year, providing a transparency piece. And I think this is a step towards that, building the public trust with how we publicize our closed meetings. I also want to hear from our city attorney what we can and cannot do. Again, this is something that TML, they recommend that most cities are doing it this way. We have our school district. They kind of post the nature of their meetings. I know we do. When we talk about real property, we actually, I noticed that it's listed on our agenda that we're supposed to real property. Our economic development closed sessions, I like to see that a little bit more pointed. What economic in terms of what? Is it to our hotel? Is it the marketplace? What have you? So I just want to open the floor for discussion on that and see how how council would like to move forward with posting closed sessions in a manner that really helps our public trust. So I'll turn it over to hear from my colleagues in legal, if need be.
Any comments? Any questions? Mr. City Attorney, could you give us some input on what the implications would be if we were to be more pointed, in Councilman Griffith's words, in how we list our executive session items?
So I think in order to provide an accurate answer, we'd have to discuss those items specifically. There's not a one-size-fits-all answer. The first item that Councilmember Griffith had brought up was litigation. Remember, there are two kinds of things we discuss when we talk about litigation. We talk about pending cases, and if the desire of council is to name pending cases that we're going to discuss, I have no problem with that. The second type of matter that we discuss is contemplated litigation. It is very, very important that when we discuss contemplated litigation, it is not disclosed in any public manner, because that would lead to us definitely getting sued when we're wondering whether we're going to get sued, or it's going to interfere with our trial strategy when we think someone has done us harm. The other things that we discuss once we get back there are strategy issues, and I would never want to discuss strategy issues related to either pending or contemplated litigation in public. So that is, and I will go back and say, remember that these are based on privileges that exist in the law. So the way the Public Information, the Open Meetings Act is written to allow us to do these closed sessions is based on existing law regarding attorney-client privilege, attorney-work product privilege, investigatory privilege, and also attorney ethics requirements. So since this is kind of a long answer to recap, I have no problem disclosing the names of pending litigation in our agenda. I would not disclose any information about contemplated litigation, and I would not disclose any information about strategy. With regard to economic development, the answer is similar. There are some matters that we discuss in economic development that are general and will not harm us to name something like, consider building a sports facility. When we start to identify specific items, we run the risk of having other cities win those economic development items. We run the risk of offending our partners who have provided proprietary, confidential, trade secret information. And remember, those things are privileged and confidential under the law. And disclosing even the name of those partners before a deal is done can subject us to liability. Oftentimes, our discussions about economic development involve contract terms, which I would never disclose publicly until a contract has been executed by the parties and approved by City Council. Oftentimes, in economic development negotiations, we have to discuss the purchase of real property. And if that type of information is out in the public, it would inevitably lead to us spending a lot more to purchase property as land speculation starts to increase based on what people might have gathered from our meetings. And that leads, of course, to discussions of real property. I won't go back and reiterate that, but that's the reason the real property confidentiality provisions exist. I'm not sure if I addressed everything you brought up, Councilmember Griffith, but those are the big ones.
Right, and I do understand what you're talking about with real property, and how it's, how it's listed even tonight on tonight's agenda. I have no issue with that.
And that reminds me, remember, we always take action in public session. We allow for public debate. We allow for citizen input. So, for example, when we are discussing a real estate deal in a closed session, we don't consummate the transaction until later on in a public meeting.
And I do understand all that, and we don't want to, in terms of litigation, talk strategy. We don't want that language in the executive session, but just a general layout of what case we are talking about. I do hear what you're saying about contemplated litigation. That's something we don't want to put out there. Just if there's avenues where we could be more transparent without divulging sensitive information, we don't want the public to hear or get into the wrong ears. I think whatever we could do as a council would be in the best interest of building public trust and transparency.
Staff is happy to go back, reevaluate legal department, city manager's office, and city clerk's office on ways to tweak that agenda. Something else that came to mind, and I don't know if you mentioned this, but personnel matters are discussed in executive session unless at the sole discretion of the employee is discussed in public session. Typically, when we talk about non-management level employees, we do not name those employees in our agendas, although we might refer to a position. With respect to management level employees and public officials, we either disclose the name of the individual or the individual's title. And that is per the Attorney General's opinions in regard to how an agenda is created for a personnel matter.
Thank you. Anybody else got anything?
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
This is maybe a little bit off tact. If it is, you can cut me off quick. I have no problems with the way we do executive sessions at this time or post-executive sessions. I would like a consensus of this council to have a review of how we get items on the agenda. I'm not upset with the city manager. I'm not upset with my colleague, but we have procedures that we've all agreed to get things on the agenda. I'm a little concerned that as an individual council member, there are issues sometimes that I'd like to have on the agenda, but I know it's not going to go well with my colleagues, and so I let it ride. Or I visit with you to try to convince you as mayor to put those on there. So I'd just like to go back and reaffirm our processes. And I'll be quite clear. If Councilman Griffith had come to me and said, hey, I want to talk about this, I'd have signed as a member of 3 to get it on the agenda. But for an individual council member to request it, and I'm not upset with Jay, but I am scolding him a little bit. That it should have been absolutely get 2 more members of council. And again, I would have signed the request because I think it has value to discuss it. but I'm a little concerned about the process. And I just want to reaffirm what our process is.
And
I want to step in there because it was something that I brought up to the city manager, and he decided to put it on here. So I hear what you're saying, and it's noted, but it wasn't. I wasn't thinking it was something that I was getting thrown on the agenda like that, but here we are.
Yeah.
So I hear what you're saying, but the city manager does have discretion to put
and I'm willing to put things on the agenda for discussion purposes, whether I agree with them or not, because I agree with our ability to do that. But we have a process, and I'd like us to stay a little more attuned to that process.
Well, part of the process is the city manager is allowed to put things on the agenda.
I had the conversation with Jay also, and my question was, how did this get on there? And he told me how it happened, and I'm not scolding you at all.
No, it's
but
received. It's okay.
I was just, how did this get here?
With 7 bosses.
It is, and if we can send something out reminding of the process, 3 council members, mayor or city manager. When he told me he put it on, I said, okay, that's fine. I have nothing to say about it because it went that way. But I did ask that question, not trying to scold you.
No, it's okay if you are. It's fine.
No, I'm not. But it was a discussion item. It was a concern for you. You put it on.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to say thank you for doing it, because now we have clarification on why we cannot list some of these things on here, because it would actually hurt the city. It would hurt us in negotiations.
Yes, sir.
And that's one thing we don't want. We're out here looking out for the city to do the right thing to get the best deal. That's what we're here to do. So thank you.
I have a question. Once you're finished with your comments.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. City Attorney, for putting that out there so everyone will hear. If there was any doubters, now they know why we don't list things verbatim when we're going to.
I also just got one thing to say is we had an agenda item put on a month ago. Staff worked with one city councilman councilwoman to put an agenda item on, because this isn't anything that's out of the ordinary.
It's not.
So I really
That's what my comment was going to be. So because if I remember correctly, it's either 3, the mayor, or the city manager. And so again, that's what I was going to mention is like I had an agenda item put on, and now Jay could have said, no, I don't think this is pertinent, and I would have been okay with that. Or I could have just said, I disagree. I'm going to get 2 signatures, or I'm going to get with the mayor. So I have no problem with it going to Jay, and he having that discretion of whether he's going to put it on or not.
I'll just
the word right out of my mouth. I was just going to say, I just made the assumption that because he professionally speaks to all of us all the time, that he just said, well, it's probably something we should put on the agenda and discuss. I didn't.
Well, that's some of the burden we put on this guy. I can go visit with him 4 days a week and emphatically stress certain issues that I'd like to see on the agenda, and I'm sure as being one of his bosses, he would probably acquiesce and put it on the agenda. But that's not fair to him. Mm-hmm. We have a process that if an individual council member wants something on the agenda, we get 2 others to say, hey, yeah, we support putting it on the agenda. Again, whether I agree or disagree with what it is, give me a call sometime. But that's not fair to Jay, because now I'm going, okay, he and I have talked about several issues. I don't see him on the agenda, and we're going to have that conversation.
I look forward to our next conversation, Mr. Lewis.
Yes, I'm sure you do. So again, sometimes we got to realize that man's got 7 bosses, and he does everything he can to give us what we want. But we have to discipline ourselves to stay in the rules.
Well, I didn't see it as
Well,
him
we
giving what he wants.
were within the rules.
Yeah, no, I didn't see it as him getting what someone wants. I saw it as he thought this was a valid discussion as city manager for all this. Maybe over the course of 4 years or something, he's heard several of us mention it and thought, oh, well.
So I'll jump in real quick.
We were in the city council rules.
So, Mr. Lester, I appreciate the scolding. I appreciate the words of understanding of what's happening as well. Mayor, I appreciate the comments that we've had discussing this and getting stuff on as well. Your voices are heard. When things get on, I am using my best judgment from where I think it's going to go with council, if there's going to be a lot of blowback, if there's going to be, I think I know I'm very honest with y'all when y'all bring something and I say, hey, you probably need to go find 2 members to talk about those things. I greatly appreciate Mr. Lester's point on follow the council process and keep me out of the fray. Really appreciate that. The other piece of that I want to publicly acknowledge, Mr. Griffith and I have had a different relationship than a lot of the other members on this board, okay? And Mr. Griffith and I have been working together to try to build a better relationship, and I want to publicly say that. And so part of this piece is trying to work with y'all well. I work with all of y'all, and I work with all of y'all a lot. And I am trying to do my best when there are perceived, to Mr. Lester's point, having 7 bosses is very challenging because over time it seems things are skewed from your views. If I'm appear to be favoring one member over other members or a group of members over the whole council. And Mr. Griffith and I have had those conversations before. And trying to find things that I know will be discussion items that can go. I'm using judgment to see if they can go on there, but also try to mend relationships and have better working relationships with all of you, okay? And this was one of those instances. And if the council wants to go and hey, we only are going to do this and stay away from the city manager's office for putting something on the agenda, I fully respect that. I really do. And I do appreciate that because it does take it. When I put something on like this, it appears as some kind of political aspect and it puts me in the political arena. And I think that's what Mr. Lester was getting at from that piece. And I understand that. But a lot of this was also trying to mend relationships with the council member.
That's fine. We're adults. I mean, I'm not going to say you have 7 kids, you have 7 bosses that can act like kids from time to time. And
Grumpy old men.
Grumpy old men. There you have it. Some of us older, some of us younger. But
There's women on here too.
and women, individuals is what I will say. And I think that's kind of remedial and elementary to say you would have a favorite, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm not saying that. I don't have an issue with how things are put on. I think it's done fairly because I will probably say something if you're putting something on the agenda, every agenda item, every meeting, and you're doing 2 or 3 things from 2 or 3 different council members, then, come on, man, we need to slow down on that. But that's not happening, and I can respect that you took the time to listen to a council member and put something on, and I think other council members would appreciate it if it was something near and dear to their heart that you found worthy enough to get on there. So, again, thank you. Thank you for the discussion, and we are going to move on to proposed resolutions. 6A, consider a resolution granting the petition for the proposed annexation of approximately 202.48 acres of land located on the north and south sides of Battle Bell Road and the east side of John Martin Road and sections of Battle Bell and Jones Road. Mr. Calvin.
Should be.
Thank you, Mayor. What you have before you is a proposed annexation, as the mayor identified the parameters of this annexation. It's approximately 202 acres. Staff is bringing this before you for a request to move forward with the service plan. And that concludes my presentation.
Good deal. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, before you all deliberate, the city manager brought to my attention that the item and the proposed ordinance say east side of John Martin. It should be west. So that I would ask that whoever makes a motion amend it to refer to the west side of John Martin Road.
Can I just reread it?
We can do it when the motion is made.
Okay, good deal. Any questions or comments? Remember, when you do this, is the west side, as Ice Cube would say, and not the east side.
No, you didn't do it right.
I gotta physically do
West
it.
side?
West side?
Mhm.
Okay, there you go.
I can't do it. I gotta physically turn my fingers.
Turn your fingers.
Do it.
I can't do it. I gotta.
But you were in the 90s. I mean,
I
that's
was in the 90s, but I can't. I gotta physically do it.
But you don't have 20-year-old hands anymore?
As you said earlier, back in the day.
Still do this.
Grumpy.
Now I can't get that whole album out of my head.
Okay, I need a motion.
Motion to approve item 6A on the west side of John Martin Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion
Nay.
carried. You said nay? Yeah. So we have on record one nay?
Yeah.
Good deal. Okay, consent agenda. We will move into consent agenda, items A through I. Anyone wish to pull anything? Good deal. I need a motion.
Motion to approve items 7A through I.
All in favor?
Second.
Oh, I'm trying, y'all. I need a second. We got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we are on to manager's report. Mr. Jason Reynolds.
Mayor and Council, thank you. From 4 members of our PDS team recently earned their ICC certifications: Lorena Portillo, Stephanie Blanchett, Alex Gomez, and Dallas Edwards. Congrats and thank you for your commitment to serving our community. And I like the photos with the trees. That's great. Good stuff. The City of Baytown has been recognized as a tourism-friendly, Texas-certified community. This program highlights our commitment to growing tourism as a key driver of economic impact. Our focus is on creating meaningful connections to our public spaces, programs, and events, enhancing quality of life for residents while improving the visitor experience. We will continue promoting the unique assets that make Baytown special. Congratulations to our team and community for this achievement. Fantastic photo, Cliff. There you are. And just, are they going to Texas Travel Alliance, Cliff? What's that? Okay, so Baytown will be mentioned there, just FYI. They're going to do a presentation about the things we're doing in Baytown, and Jeff Williams is going to do a whole thing about that. So more people knowing about Baytown. All right, 3 of our departments were recently recognized during National Telecommunicators Week, National Library Week, and Community Development Week, as well as Fair Housing Month. I want to thank each of these teams for their incredible work they do every day. Our organization wouldn't be what it is without your dedication and commitment, so please spread our thanks, and thank you for putting all this together, and it's great to see. So thanks, everybody. Sterling Beaver presented at the Design Build Institute of America last week. He joined the Carollo and BGE teams to share insights with the Bawa East Surface Water Treatment Plant expansion. So thank you for representing our organization, Sterling. And Sterling also had a big week as well. We did the groundbreaking for Bawa East, and thank you for the council showing up for that groundbreaking. And I hope Sterling and the rest of the Public Works team is excited to what's going on with that. So thank you. Mr. Lesser, do you want to read this one? The household hazardous waste? Okay. The Household Hazardous Waste event was a great turnout, with 69 tires collected and 278 vehicles coming through. A big thank you to everyone involved who helped make this event a success.
And I'll add to it, I was there from about 10:15 to 10:45. They had already done over 100 vehicles, and the line was around the block. The only negatives that I heard from folks was it just took forever, and it's kind of like that is a good thing because it was such a successful event. So again, kudos to the public works crews and the crews that were there working it. It was well received. There was a few disconnects between what we put out on the flyer and the webpage and what was actually posted on the signs on site.
Okay.
But staff worked to that quite well, calmed everybody's concerns and took care of everybody. So it was well attended. If y'all haven't gone to one of those, you need to, next time they have it, go by and see. Again, it was around the block from Nazareth. There was probably 60 cars in queue the whole time.
Thank you, sir. We also had the ExxonMobil Baytown Event Center public meeting last week. It was very well attended. The community received a presentation from our consulting team and then participated in multiple feedback activities. There's a survey for those that were unable to make it. You can find the survey on baytown.org/MBEC. We want to hear from as many of our residents as we can as we go through this process. Thank you to all of the staff that made the public meeting happen. And thank you to the residents and council for showing up and getting involved. I'm told we had 165 total people there, around 165 total people there, with 117 of those being residents. They were active. They did take part, or they did engage with the little exercises, and we will bring that back to council. And we have another public meeting, I believe, in July. And we will continue to do outreach and discuss MBEC as this moves forward. So, Mayor and Council, that's all I have.
Good deal. Before we go into the district.
Sorry. I do want to. Baytown Voice magazine is out. Please go check it out. There's a lot of great information on building a greener Baytown. A ton of great info on what's happening in the Parks Department and all of the green spaces that we have around Baytown. And a big thank you to the public affairs team and everybody that's involved with putting this together.
That's it. Thanks, Mayor. We're going to receive a report from Council Member District 1, Ms. Laura Alvarado.
I was sitting back because I didn't know if you were going to do your library bit.
It's not a bit, it's a lot.
Well, it's amazing. I love the library, but that's why I was just kind of waiting. So I'm just going to run through these. I know it's getting late. So I'm just going to go through some of the new business development going on in District 1. Obviously, we all know about the Fire Station 2. Many of you have seen a lot of the trees that are coming down. We did have to do some additional retention out this way. But I have been assured that as we remove trees, we'll find other areas to put additional trees. So hopefully we can get that project completed soon. Bay Area Homeless Services, that's well underway, and, we've been issuing the permits to that for them to continue their construction. They're at 3404 Wisconsin. St. Joseph Catholic Church is being remodeled. They're at 1907 Carolina Street, and they're working to get it back to its original historic area. I want to thank Mike for him working on ensuring that we get the permits processed and bringing those to light, so I appreciate you. The Baytown Primary Medical Center, 2802 Garth Road. Rolling Brick Center, 1901 Rolling Brick Drive, Building A. Mount Calvary Missionary Baptist Church continues to move forward. And, of course, our new City of Baytown Traffic Control Building right over here at 2123 Market Street, Unit C. We have been selected to host the Veterans Judo USA Tournament on August the 29th at the Baytown Community Center. So we're hoping to get maybe about 80 room nights over at the Hyatt that's going to be part of this programming. Baytown recently welcomed a regional cat show that was hosted. It was hosted by the International Cat Association at the Hyatt Regency Baytown, Houston. And it was supported by our Parks and Rec and Tourism team, which resulted in 103 hotel room nights. And Texas Park and Wildlife's March 2026 survey of the Buddy McBride boat ramp found higher recreational use, with 15 groups observing 15 groups observed, 13 fishing. So anglers visiting from 8 counties and 65 fish caught across 7 species, indicating strong regional use and continued productive fishing activity. The community center continues to experience strong participation and engagement across a wide range of programs. And for the second consecutive month, you can go see Baile Folklorico, who continues to maintain a high enrollment. And this group will actually also perform at the upcoming Dollar Taco Night at Town Square. I've already talked about Fire Station 2, and so they're working in the coming weeks to shift excavation and soil sampling along with grading and stabilizing the building pad. So more to come on Station 2. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Good deal. I'm going to, I want to say something about something I saw this morning at about 8:30. No, had to be about between 8:45 and 9 o'clock this morning. I was driving down Alexander Road headed to a meeting, and I saw an officer with 2 individuals in a car. Now, I didn't stop to get the name because I was running late, but I did get the license plate of the vehicle the officer was driving. And I just want to say I was proud to see what I was seeing. This officer was actually changing someone's tire. Mm-hmm. He had taken the time to stop, change their tire, and was getting ready to be about on his way. But I've heard the stories about officers doing things like that, and it was the first time I got to witness it firsthand, and it made me proud to see it happening firsthand. So, Chief, I'll give you that license plate, and if you would just tell him thank you. I'm pretty sure that they said it, but I just want to say thank you because it was a moment that I was able to witness firsthand, and it made me proud. Yeah. Now, Councilman Franco said he wanted to recognize some officers also.
Yeah, and I think Chief knows about this one. Last week at Jason's Deli, Officer Rash and Officer Lewin were there. Officer Lewin was off duty, and Officer Rash was not in uniform. While a gentleman outside, they had a little road rage and decided to brandish a weapon. There was 2 assailants. Officer Lewin, being in street clothes with no body armor and no gun, stood between the people at Jason's Deli and those assailants as they meant he would not. I was right there witnessing it. He would not lower his hands for a long time. It was a little tense there, knowing if he was going to actually pull his gun or not. So I commend Officer Lewin and Officer Rash for their quick response while not being actually on duty, and especially Officer Lewin for putting his life in front of other people with no protection. And that's a great sign for your officers. I really appreciate that, and the people at Jason's Deli really appreciate it. They said it was the safest lunch they'd ever had after that because there's nobody was coming in to do anything. But I know you've picked on Officer Rash a little bit about it, but yeah, he was holding the gun steady. But it was amazing to see the officers in action and then putting their life on line for citizens.
Thank you so much for recognizing that. Thank you very much.
Good deal. So now we are going to recess into executive session pursuant of Texas Government Code 551.012 of the Texas Government Code to deliberate the purchase and exchange, lease, or value of real property. Thank you, sir.
Mayor and Council, this is the project that was discussed in executive session. If you would like for me to go over it in the public at this point, I can.
After this, we're going to have comment, but we're allowing him to explain what's going on, and then I normally open for public comment.
So, Mayor and Council, what this exchange will be is Lee College did a resolution, I believe it was last week or 2 weeks ago, where they authorized the exchange of these properties with the City of Baytown's properties that are on Market Street that were recently purchased, and one that's on Texas Avenue, the city would work with Lee College, exchange the daycare area and the small business development building that's on the front part, on the intersection of Decker Market and Texas Avenue. In exchange, the city would hand over the PSI building that's there, and they would be able to do infrastructure improvements as necessary for their needs. And it's not our place to talk about what Lee College wants to do, but they would have that area, and it's an equal swap of land. Both parties work to do as fair and as equivalent as possible, and this would be for the ExxonMobil Event Center. That's all I have at this time, Mayor and Council.
Good deal. Any questions or comments? We have one person signed up to speak. That is Ms. June Stansky. Please state your address for record.
Okay, June Stansky, 4601 Drifter Drive, Baytown, Texas. Most of you know I'm an optometrist right across the street from this property. I mean, my office is, I look out my front door and I see the big Lee College building. That thing is going to come down and just create havoc. A working daycare center is going to be coming down to create more space for this terribly proposed project vector that's going to be on Decker Drive. The equipment, the heavy equipment's going to rip up Decker Drive even worse. The noise is going to be crazy in my office. As you've heard from me several times in the past, terrible location, no hotels nearby. I just think the whole thing should be trashed from this area. I don't want to see the construction at my office for 3 years. First the coming down, then the going back up, the heavy machinery, not conducive for my business. I mean, it's bad enough we get, the fire department and the EMS workers coming down with sirens blaring down Sterling Street, but this is going to be nonstop noise. Just not good for business. I don't think the whole project is good for Baytown. It's not. You don't have hotels nearby for tourism. It's just poorly planned. You didn't have a citizens council to plan this location. You didn't take a vote on it. It wasn't on any. I mean, I'm sure you say, oh, well, Exxon's giving us the money, but Exxon's not giving us the money. They're taking $75 million out of our tax dollars over the next few years. So it's not a gift. They shouldn't have naming rights. This whole thing should have been a stadium up near Interstate 10, so at least we could get hotel occupancy taxes. Where it's going in now, people aren't going to want to go up Garth. They're going to jump on 146 and go down to LaPorte, and they're going to get occupancy taxes. The whole thing should be gutted, and it's just going to kill off Decker Drive and my business.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, I need a motion.
Motion to approve item 11A.
Second.
With the.
Oh, yes, the amendment.
Council, if we could amend the motion to include direction that we enter into a contract as discussed during executive session, I'd appreciate it.
Motion to approve item 11A with to include items on the contract that are yet to be negotiated.
As discussed.
As discussed in executive session.
Yes.
It's too late in prison.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Having exhausted everything on this agenda, I now adjourn this meeting at 9:44 p.m.